Got two great guests in studio today to talk about a big event tomorrow and a very important thing for everybody out there to either be ready for if they're not quite of age yet, or if you are over the age of 18 and eligible to register for voting. It's National Voter Registration Day tomorrow, and Fina and Lori are in studio this morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Good to see you, Lori. Nice to meet you here. And you're the new outreach coordinator for the county.
Yes, I am.
What is
Very
that?
Excited.
What does that do? What's the job entail there?
Well, it really entails reaching out to, in particular, people who maybe never have had the opportunity to vote or hadn't even thought about it. In particular, for me, that would be young people who tend to vote at lower rates. Maybe some of our Spanish language speakers who are eligible, but maybe feel like they don't have that connection. I am bilingual, so I have that opportunity to reach out to them as well. So, and I'm a previous teacher. I say previous. I always will be a teacher, and so I really have an affinity for getting out there and getting the young people out voting.
That's great.
Yeah.
This is kind of doing some looking here on some information for Voter Registration Day last year. More than 800,000 voters used the day to register to vote. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Yeah. We're really excited about it. In partnership with the League of Women Voters, because they really are. There's no way we could do this without them. We're staffing 5 sites tomorrow around the county. So
all over.
Yeah, the Timberland Library, both in we have Belfair, Hoodsport, and here in Shelton, Olympic College, and then myself and a couple of other ladies will be out at the Transit Center.
That's great.
All day long. Yeah.
How have things changed for voter registration in the last couple of years? I know most recently the voter rolls are now kind of read on a statewide level, making it easier for folks to avoid voting in separate counties and things like that, with instantaneous kind of information gathering and things like that.
Well, we've always had for quite some time, we've had a statewide voter registration database, which prevented double registrations. And so we've had that. Now we've just recently moved to one that is more even instantaneous, where we're all on one system as opposed to each being on a different system and then sort of connected. So that's been more recent. So that's been very helpful, and we're moving forward with that. The other thing we're very excited about is the law has passed for future voters, which so 16 and 17-year-old voters can what's called pre-register, and so they'll be allowed to register, and then we sort of just put their registration in a pending status, and then once they turn 18 or are eligible for an election, we register them, send them a voter registration card and a ballot. So we're excited about that.
Where does that come through? Department of Licensing, like if they get their driver's licenses, or? It
comes through both there, or we can accept paper registrations for that. So.
And then that's very exciting. That's cool.
That's and part of it has to do with getting a chance to contact voters. Their first interaction with Department of Licensing, of course, is usually their license at 16. So
are we seeing increasing numbers in voters as registrations go up, or what are some of the obstacles you have to overcome to get somebody from registering to actually on election day getting out and voting?
I think a little bit of that has to do with, as much as possible, keeping it out here in the media, making sure that there's a lot of reminders at all times that yes, you're registered, your ballot's coming in the mail. That when that ballot shows up, that's a great reminder to them. It shows up, and we like to encourage them to take their time and look at the issues, but also get it back in as soon as possible, because we now have a registration period or a voting period versus one voting day like you have in states that are not on a mail-in system.
Yeah.
The other thing that has changed recently is the ability to, when you return your ballots, if you don't use one of the 8 or so drop box locations here in Mason County, now you can just put them in the mail without a stamp. That's got to help it too.
Yeah, that is also helpful in terms of, allowing people to, return it with their postages paid. So we do encourage people, though, as they get closer to election day, to switch to using the drop boxes because, we don't want a late ballot. So it does have to be postmarked by election day, and it's not always when you put it in the box or when you put it in your mailbox. So
one of the things I saw, and then we'll talk about what we need for registering to vote tomorrow throughout the county, is Thurston County, and I'm sure most of the other counties across the state, sent out their overseas ballots. Do you have an idea of how many overseas ballots in Mason County that are sent out?
Yeah, we do. So we have just about, I would say, roughly 500.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have about 500 military or overseas voters. Those kind of both go in the category, and so they get sent out earlier because, of course, it's more difficult for them to return their ballot from overseas. So, and some of those are emailed. They are allowed the privilege of returning their ballot by email.
Oh,
also.
wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So not a vote online, but they still have to print it and sign it, but then they can scan it and return it to us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So tomorrow is a big day, and we're hoping to register as many voters who are eligible tomorrow. What does somebody need to bring with them, or if they're stopped on, they're walking by the transit center and you're there, what would they need to have on them to successfully register to vote?
Well, actually, they don't have to have anything technically. We only need 5 pieces of information to get someone at least provisionally registered. It's helpful if they have a driver's license or know their driver's license number. If they don't know that, if they could at least know the last 4 digits of their Social Security, that helps us determine that they are the person that they say they are. But if you're walking by and you don't have that and you don't remember your last 4 digits, we can still register, at least provisionally register, and then we'll follow up with them.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so then what is that? How does that process work? You'll go back to the office that next week or so and crunch those numbers, go through the database and see whether or not they're registered perhaps in a different county or ineligible for some sort of aspect.
Yeah, if they're already registered and proven, given their ID, then we do have that already in the system. We don't need to do that. We also have lots of ways to look up to make sure somebody is, we're sort of just verifying that a person is a person.
Sure.
So, but what we really need on the form is just what everybody already knows: their name, their date of birth, their address, and they sign it,
And then is that signature the signature that goes on file when you check after the ballots have come back after the election?
Yes. So when the ballots come out, we mail the ballots out, and there's an oath on the ballot, and that's what they sign. So when that comes in, that's what we check that against the signature that was on their voter registration form.
And signatures do change. I know I've been gotten notes saying, well, we'd like you to come in.
Now we really check every single one.
See if the signatures are the same, because on your driver's license or on your voter ID, you may want to have a very nice signature that looks very legible in cursive, and then by the time you get to the ballot or something, you just kind of go whatever, and if they don't match, then that can cause an issue.
Well, and this was my first election this last time, so it was really fun for me, but I got to watch the signature checkers, looking that up. And we also have your signatures from your driver's license, because that our system is allowed to look at that. So if your signature changes a little bit, usually we can look and see some of those changes. So
what I noticed with young people too is, with cursive going out the door in a lot of schools, they don't know how to sign there. They just kind of all have this line that goes across, and I don't know if that makes things easier or harder. But if you notice that young people, you ask them to sign a piece of paper, they'll just, it's not even like a signature anymore with a name. It's just kind of like a scribble.
Like a wavy.
Yeah, well, and signatures certainly change with age. Certainly the signature I had when I was 16, is not the signature I have now. And then also it happens as you age too. There can be things, you can become shaky or things like that. So we certainly work with the voter and attempt, and every voter gets a letter like Jeff, and a phone call, before we certify the election that says, we weren't able to count your ballot, without this a clear signature.
And does it have to be like a signed cursive signature, or?
No, it has to just match what's on the file.
What's on file?
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a good reason to check your registration every so often. Maybe, if you suspect that your signature has changed and you haven't put one on, put another registration form in.
Yeah.
We'll update your signature so it'll be more close to what you do now.
And you may have moved or
Right,
whatever
yeah.
in the last time since you
Absolutely.
voted, so your
Right.
updated address, of course, is great.
Yeah, I think that brings up a really point we were talking about earlier, is that we often forget when we move, because moving is, so much fun. We often forget that, we need to tell the auditor's office where we have moved, that, we are now a voter in your area. Generally, they will then go back to the previous county and let you know, so that we can take them off our rolls
Sure.
and they get switched over. That's really
Yeah.
important thing to do.
Big day tomorrow, National Voter Registration Day. If you have the opportunity, make sure you do get registered to vote, and the November elections are upcoming. We'll get you in sometime closer to election time so people are familiar with what they'll be voting on this year. And then, of course, the big year next year, 2020, as it's all the way from the top down to the bottom on the ballots there. Lori, nice to meet you. Fina, always
Nice
good
to
to
meet
see
you, too.
Thank you.
You guys
Thanks.
have a
Thank you
good
for
rest
having
of your
us.
day here.